So the University actually hosted Professor Yakir Aharonov until he retired and went to a private university in the United States. He's now 82, and he's trying to predict the future with quantum physics. So I think we should have what you said about the rate of compute that exceeds the real time. We should have it also in physics, and then we'll be secure that we actually solve another problem. So thank you very much, Beck. I want to invite now Brent Conran, the Chief Information Security Officer of Intel Corporation. Long the champion of cybersecurity, his in-depth knowledge of both technology and business helps him drive and manage organization-wide information security programs aligned with business strategies where he engages and educates stakeholders, finding ways to mitigate and reduce risk while balancing security and business needs. Responsible for safeguarding Intel's corporate assets, intellectual property, and computer systems, he works closely with Intel employees and executives, government agencies, and local, state, and federal law enforcement to ensure optimal security. Brent, please.
Good afternoon, all. I hope you're enjoying your conference. In 1974, Intel started with 6 employees, and today we're more than 10,000. We have had a long and prosperous relationship, and we see this continuing to grow. Our challenge today, as we look beyond the internet and the internet strategy, we see that the traditional infrastructure that we have broadly across our global infrastructure is no longer relevant, and it's crumbling pretty quickly. The pressures, you've heard them, about social, mobile, analytical, the Internet of Things that are coming, the deluge of information, the traditional model of compute has been turned upside down. And the fact that we're moving into a model where most of our data will live external from our traditional environment means we have to think about how we secure data elements that are specific to our intellectual property or our ability to keep this information safe. We see that a cloud and the cloud-first strategy and the sensors are, it's no longer if you're going, it's how fast you're going, and we see this really as a tsunami in the way that we compute and compute differently. We talked a little bit about the amount of data that's coming and how do you cut through all that information, offer services to find out who the person is that's going to get your services, and how you can collaborate in a global environment. This is our challenge, and this is what we need to do in the future to be successful. So some of the enablers to that challenge and how we think about what we need to do in the future, and the framework that we're thinking about today, and partnering with our friends and trying to figure out the right technology strategies to build that infrastructure. And we see a lot of enablers along the way. People compute today, my children, they don't even use a computer anymore, they only use a small handheld device, and they want to compute and contribute to the corporations, they want to contribute to the university. And they think and consume information very, very differently, and our systems today are not prepared for this new compute model. We have enablers for the enterprise, our application and our data, how do we get our data into the right model. All the things that are out there that can help us be successful, build better technology, and provide better services. This is our challenge. How do we get the data out of the sensors and turn that into actionable intelligence? So we've come up with a concept, conceptual design. The conceptual design is essentially everyone on the outside of our environment. We think about how someone can consume resources, and the crux of this framework is that we're thinking about how to secure data elements and no longer how we're going to secure the enterprise. The traditional security model that we've enjoyed for the last 10 years, everyone says the perimeter is collapsing, and I would say that the perimeter just moves, and that people are now the new perimeter. And the data that they produce is no longer the data that the corporation produces, but the individual produces, and it's important to put the right policies around that data and that data element. Data will live in the cloud, data will live in your environment, on your premise, data will live on laptops, it will live in different countries and different regions, different laws and regulations around that data. And it's important that you think about the element and the data around, the security controls around that data is where we have to go into the future. And then how do you access that data? Today it's very simple. You come in, it's using a password, and we believe that you're going to have to think about access to that information much differently in the future. It's going to have context around access to information. Where are you? What are you? How do you use your devices? That's important. Down into the hardware, all the way to the software applications, and adapt authentication methods based on the criticality of that data. In the middle of that, we believe there's going to be policy enforcement points, policy decision points, and policy information points. That may happen in your environment, and that may happen external to a data element, but you're going to have to think about how people can access information and never come back into your global infrastructure. So, information will live in the cloud. How are we going to get someone from their small form factor out to access that information into the cloud? It's going to come with the context and how that person is interacting with that data. This is what we're thinking about as we move forward. We think that most of the information and the context on how people are going to, there's the attributes, and how we sum those attributes, and how we think about how that information is going to, or how those people are going to be authenticated in this vast sea of information. To get it down to the right types of attributes to say, yes, this is the person who's going to consume this information from us. Once we've gone through that process, then we have to make decisions, once I know who you are, on what it is that you're going to access into that environment. And that's what these engines, these policy engines and the enforcement engines of the future need to be. You're going to take from the Internet of Things mass quantities of data, from individuals mass quantities of data, and from that develop the right algorithms to create a policy to for sure know that this is the person who needs to consume this information. Once we get through that policy decision point, then we have to provide enforcement on top of, should you have this information, can you copy this information, how do you consume this information to drive business, and make sure that the advanced actors are not people consuming this data. You cannot hear me? I could probably talk without these and you could hear me. These policies and enforcement points are gates, and these gates will be how we're going to think about people accessing the information. It's clear that the context that we're going to receive from the Internet of Things, from the cloud, and how we interact is very, very different, and that traditional model is going to change. We're envisioning a day now where our employees may never actually come into an Intel facility and be able to compute and participate in our business and always be on the outside of that infrastructure. If you think about that model and how that flips, and how the advanced actors could take and use that against our environment, naturally you have to go to the data itself, and you have to think about how you're going to secure that data. It also, if you think about if you do it that way, where the data lives becomes a lot less relevant than it is today. Today we build massive databases and massive security apparatus around that data. And tomorrow we think that data can live anywhere in the cloud, on-prem, off-prem, on your laptop. It doesn't matter as long as you put the right security and the right security model around it. So this is our design, this is our thought. We believe that the data wants to be free. We think that if we build this model and this conceptual framework, that we will be able to compute much cleaner and much more efficient into the future. Thank you.